The crystal spire pierced the cloud cover like a jagged wound in the sky, its surface refracting the dim sunlight into prismatic patterns that danced across the ruins of San Francisco. Dr. Sarah Chen watched through the reinforced window of the underground lab, her reflection ghostly against the bulletproof glass. The radiation meter on her wrist clicked steadily, a grim reminder of what the beautiful light show really meant. 3 months had passed since the Prisma arrived. They came without warning or declaration, their crystalline ships descending from the stars like geometric snowflakes. Within days, they had seeded major cities with their structures, massive, growing crystalline formations that pulsed with otherworldly energy and emitted radiation that made the areas uninhabitable for human life. Sarah turned away from the window and back to her workstation, where a fragment of Prisma crystal floated in a magnetic containment field. The piece had cost 17 lives to acquire, but it might hold the key to humanity's survival. Under the harsh laboratory lights, its structure seemed to shift and change, defying conventional analysis. Any breakthrough? The voice belonged to Colonel James Harper, his dark skin weathered by months of endless crisis management. He'd traded his military uniform for practical civilian wear, but his bearing still screamed authority. Maybe, Sarah replied, adjusting the quantum resonance scanner. The crystal structure isn't just complex, it's impossible, at least according to our current understanding of physics. She pulled up a holographic display showing the material's atomic structure. See these patterns? They're not just crystalline formations. They're quantum circuits. Harper leaned closer, though Sarah knew he couldn't make sense of the technical readouts. Quantum circuits, like in our computers, more sophisticated by orders of magnitude. Our quantum computers need extreme cold to maintain coherence. These, she gestured at the floating fragment, they're doing it at room temperature. And that's not even the strangest part. She typed a command, and the display shifted to show energy readings. The crystal isn't just storing energy. It's redirecting it through higher dimensional space. That's how they're able to power their structures across entire continents without any visible connections. Can we use this? Harper's question cut to the heart of the matter, as always. Since the invasion, every discovery, every resource, every moment had to serve survival. Sarah took a deep breath. Maybe. The quantum circuits have a resonant frequency. If we could match it, amplify it. She trailed off, running calculations in her head. We might be able to disrupt their energy distribution network. Harper's expression hardened. Might. That's all we have right now. Might. Sarah ran a hand through her short black hair, exhaustion seeping into her bones. I need more data, preferably from an active node, not just this fragment. That's suicide. The radiation levels around active structures are lethal within minutes. Then we better figure out how to protect against it. Sarah turned back to the crystal. Because if we don't find a way to fight back soon, there won't be anything left to save. The colonel was quiet for a long moment, studying the shifting patterns in the contained crystal. Finally, he nodded. I'll talk to the council. See what resources we can spare for radiation shielding research. He turned to leave but paused at the door. Dr. Chen, we're running out of time. The Prisma structures are growing faster now. Seattle disappeared completely under the crystals yesterday. After Harper left, Sarah stayed in the lab, running simulation after simulation. The holographic displays filled the room with ghostly light as she tested different frequencies against virtual models of the crystal's structure. Most of the results were discouraging. The crystal adapted to each attempt to disrupt it, learning and evolving its defense mechanisms. But there was something there, just at the edge of her understanding. The way the quantum circuits responded to certain harmonics, the almost organic way the crystal redirected energy. It reminded her of something from her pre-invasion research, but the connection danced just out of reach. A soft chime from her computer interrupted her thoughts. The long-range sensors were picking up something new. Sarah pulled up the feed and felt her breath catch. The Prisma ships were moving again, descending from their high orbit in greater numbers than ever before. She grabbed her tablet and ran for the council chamber. The underground corridors of the resistance base were crowded with people, all of them refugees from the surface world. Scientists, soldiers, civilians, all that remained of San Francisco's population, crowded into repurposed subway tunnels and basement complexes. The council chamber was already full when she arrived. Harper stood at the central table with other military and civilian leaders, their faces illuminated by the holographic display showing the approaching Prisma fleet. "They're not just targeting cities anymore," General Rivera was saying, her voice tight with concern. "These deployment patterns, they're going after agricultural areas. They're trying to cut off our food supply." "We need more time," Sarah interrupted, pushing through to the table. All eyes turned to her. "I'm close to understanding their energy distribution network. If we can disrupt it." "We don't have time for Maves, Dr. Chen." Councilman John cut in. "We need solutions now." Sarah set her tablet on the table, bringing up her latest data. "Look at these resonance patterns. The crystals aren't just weapons or terraforming devices. They're nodes in a vast quantum network. Everything they've built on Earth is connected, which means," she paused, making sure she had their full attention, "which means if we can disrupt one node in exactly the right way, we might be able to create a cascade effect through their entire network." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. It was Harper who finally spoke. "What do you need?" Sarah took a deep breath, knowing her next words could doom the mission before it began. "I need a team to infiltrate an active Prisma structure, and I need to go with them." The council chamber erupted in argument, but Sarah kept her eyes on Harper. He studied her for a long moment, then nodded almost imperceptibly. They both knew there was no other choice. Humanity had already lost the surface. If they couldn't find a way to fight back soon, the underground wouldn't protect them forever. As the council debated, Sarah's mind returned to the crystal in her lab, its impossible quantum circuits pulsing with alien energy. There was an answer there, hidden in the mathematical poetry of its structure. She just had to find it before the Prisma completed whatever transformation they had planned for Earth. And as she listened to the arguments around her, a new thought began to form. The way the crystals adapted, the organic nature of their energy patterns. What if they weren't just weapons? What if the Prisma themselves were something far stranger than anyone had imagined? The answer would cost them dearly to discover, but the price of ignorance would be extinction. The radiation suit felt like a second skin as Sarah worked with the modified sensor array. 20 meters above, the crystalline spire hummed with alien energy, its surface rippling like liquid glass. The Geiger counter's clicking had become a constant rhythm, but the new shielding was holding. For now. 5 minutes, Marcus Rivera's voice crackled through her helmet comm. The former NSA cryptographer turned resistance tech specialist monitored her vital signs from their makeshift command post. "After that, even the new shielding won't protect you." Sarah didn't respond, her focus entirely on the readings flooding her tablet. The closer she got to the Prisma structure, the more her instruments revealed. The quantum circuits within the crystal weren't just complex. They were alive, adapting and evolving in real time. "Look at this," she breathed, more to herself than the team. "They're not just absorbing ambient energy. They're tapping directly into Earth's electromagnetic field." The revelation hit her like a physical blow. That's why they chose population centers. They're not just targeting humans. They're targeting places where our technology has altered the planet's natural EM field. A warning light flashed on her helmet display. 4 minutes left. The sensor array beeped, indicating a complete scan. Sarah quickly began disconnecting it from the crystal surface, her movements careful despite the time pressure. One crack in her suit, one moment of careless contact with the crystal, and it would be over. 3 minutes, Marcus warned. "Sarah, we need to move." She secured the last component and started backing away from the structure. That's when she saw it. A pulse of light different from the usual patterns, traveling up the crystal's surface like a wave. "Wait," she said, adjusting her scanner. Something's happening. The crystal's surface began to shift more rapidly, its geometric patterns reorganizing themselves. The humming grew louder, and Sarah's instruments went wild with new readings. "Sarah, get out of there now." Harper's voice cut through the calm static. But she couldn't move, transfixed by what her sensors were showing her. The quantum circuits weren't just adapting. They were reaching out, trying to establish new connections. And they were reaching toward her. A crystal tendril erupted from the surface, moving faster than she could react. Sarah threw herself backward, but her foot caught on debris. She fell, the sensor array clattering beside her. The tendril stopped just short of her faceplate, hovering in the air like a curious serpent. "Sarah!" Multiple voices shouted through her comm. The tendril pulsed with internal light, and for a moment, Sarah could have sworn she saw patterns in it, not just geometric shapes, but something like code or language. Then a blast from a particle cannon shattered it into glittering dust. Harper's team emerged from cover, weapons trained on the crystal surface. "Move," he ordered, and this time Sarah didn't hesitate. She grabbed the sensor array and ran, her heart pounding against her ribs. They made it back to the command post just as her radiation warning reached critical levels. As soon as her helmet was off, Sarah rushed to upload the sensor data. Her hands shook as she worked, but her mind was racing with implications. What the hell was that? Harper demanded once the team was secure. "Communication," Sarah said, still processing what she'd seen. Or an attempt at it. The crystal wasn't trying to attack me. It was trying to interface. Marcus leaned over her shoulder, studying the readings. "These energy patterns, they're not random. There's structure here, like a language," Sarah finished, "but not one based on sound or light. They communicate through quantum states." She pulled up the final moments of the scan, showing the tendrils approach. "Look at these patterns. They're similar to how quantum computers encode information, but orders of magnitude more complex. Are you saying these things are sentient?" Harper's voice was skeptical, but Sarah could hear the undertone of fear. "I'm saying they might be more than that. What if the crystals aren't their technology? What if they're the prisma themselves?" The implications silenced the room. If the crystals were the aliens, then every structure they'd built wasn't just a weapon or a terraforming device. It was alive. And it was growing. Marcus was the first to recover. The electromagnetic field connection. That's how they're powering their growth. They're not just using Earth's field. They're reshaping it. Sarah nodded, pulling up a global map showing the spread of crystal structures. Each formation is like a neuron in a vast network. They're building something, using Earth's own electromagnetic field as a foundation. "Building what?" Harper asked. "I don't know. But look at these energy readings from the last 3 months." She displayed a chart showing exponential growth. "They're accelerating. Whatever they're planning, we don't have much time left to stop it." Marcus studied the data, his expression grim. "The quantum interface attempt. Could we use that? Find a way to communicate?" "Maybe," Sarah said. "But we'd need better shielding, more sophisticated quantum sensors. And even then, we don't know if they'd actually want to communicate. This could have been like a virus trying to infect a cell." Harper straightened, his decision made. "We can't take that risk. Dr. Chen, you said disrupting their network might create a cascade effect. How close are you to making that happen?" Sarah hesitated. The scientist in her wanted to understand, to try communication, but she remembered Seattle, now completely engulfed in crystal. Remembered the millions already lost. "With this new data, I think I can create a quantum resonance device, something that could match their communication frequencies and introduce destructive interference. Like feedback in an audio system," Marcus added, catching on. "But across quantum states." "Exactly. If we can disrupt one node badly enough, the effect should propagate through their entire network." She didn't add that such a weapon would be tantamount to giving a seizure to a living being. Some implications were better left unspoken. "How long?" Harper asked. Sarah ran calculations in her head. A week to build a prototype, maybe 2 to test and refine it. You have 5 days. Harper's tone left no room for argument. The crystal growth is accelerating everywhere. We're losing ground faster than ever. As the others left to make preparations, Sarah stayed at her workstation, staring at the scan showing the crystal's attempt to interface with her suit. In that moment of connection, she'd sensed something, not just patterns, but purpose. The Prisma weren't mindless invaders. They had a goal, a reason for all this. But understanding them wasn't enough anymore. They'd forced humanity to a breaking point, and now survival meant striking back. Whatever the Prisma were, whatever they wanted, they'd made their choice. Now humans would make theirs. Sarah began working on the resonance device, trying to ignore the feeling that they were about to cross a line that couldn't be uncrossed. The price of victory might be higher than anyone imagined, but the cost of defeat was extinction. They were out of options and out of time. Above ground, the crystal spires continued to grow, reaching ever higher into the darkening sky. The cave system beneath the Atacama Desert should have been bone dry. Instead, crystalline formations lined the walls, pulsing with faint light that cast strange shadows through the ancient tunnels. Sarah's radiation suit felt suffocating in the confined space, but the readings from her sensors made the discomfort worthwhile. "These formations are different," she said into her comm, running a scanner over a particularly dense cluster. "The quantum signature matches the Prisma, but these crystals are dormant, like they're in stasis." Marcus moved his light across the cave ceiling, illuminating more crystalline veins. Carbon dating from the surrounding rocks suggests these formations are at least 12,000 years old. He paused, letting that sink in. They've been here before. The revelation hung in the stale air. Sarah had followed the energy signatures here, tracking peculiar anomalies in the Prisma's quantum network. But finding evidence of an ancient visitation, this changed everything. "Look at this." Marcus's voice drew her attention to a section of wall he'd uncovered. Ancient petroglyphs covered the stone surface, depicting geometric shapes that were unmistakably similar to the Prisma structures. But something was wrong with the images. The crystal formations in the drawings were broken, shattered. They were defeated, Sarah breathed, studying the primitive artwork. Someone fought them off. But how? Marcus ran his hand over the petroglyphs. The people who made these drawings didn't have quantum physics or particle weapons. They didn't even have bronze tools yet. Sarah's scanner beeped, drawing her attention to a deeper passage. Maybe they didn't need them. "Look at these readings. There's something else down here." They pushed deeper into the cave system, following the signal. The crystalline formations grew denser, but they remained dormant, their quantum circuits frozen in ancient patterns. Finally, the passage opened into a larger chamber, and both researchers stopped short. In the center of the chamber stood what could only be described as an altar, but instead of religious artifacts, it held something that defied the cave's apparent age. A device, its surface covered in the same geometric patterns as the Prisma crystals. "That's impossible," Marcus whispered, but Sarah was already moving forward, her scanner working overtime. "The quantum signature. It's like a mirror image of the Prismas." She circled the device, taking readings from every angle. "This isn't their technology. This was built to fight them. By who? And why leave it here?" Before Sarah could respond, her scanner picked up something new, a change in the dormant crystals around them. The ancient formations were beginning to resonate, their quantum circuits awakening after millennia of silence. "We need to move," she said, but it was too late. The crystals pulsed with increasing intensity, and suddenly the air itself seemed to vibrate with quantum activity. Then the visions hit them. Images flooded Sarah's mind, not like memories or dreams, but direct neural downloads of information. She saw other worlds, other civilizations, all facing the same crystalline invasion. Some fought with technology, others with methods her human mind could barely comprehend. But in each case, the pattern was the same. The Prisma would arrive, begin their transformation, and either succeed in completely converting the planet or be driven back. When the visions faded, Sarah found herself on her knees, gasping. Marcus was in a similar state, his face pale beneath his faceplate. "Did you?" he started. "See it?" "Yes." Sarah struggled to her feet, her mind racing to process what she'd witnessed. The device. It's not just a weapon. It's a record, a warning. The crystals around it contain the combined knowledge of multiple civilizations that fought the Prisma. Marcus checked his radiation levels, still safe, barely. "Then we know how to beat them." "Not exactly." Sarah turned back to the device, understanding flooding through her. Each civilization found different methods, but there was a common thread. The Prisma's quantum network is both their strength and their weakness. If you can disrupt it in exactly the right way, you can turn their own connectivity against them. Marcus finished, catching on. "That's why your resonance device concept might work. Others have done it before." Sarah reached for the ancient device, then stopped. "We can't move it. It's quantum entangled with the crystals here." But she began taking more detailed scans. "These patterns, these frequencies, this is exactly what we need. A blueprint for fighting back." Her tablet chimed. An urgent message from the surface. Harper's voice crackled through their comms. "Whatever you're doing down there, wrap it up. The Prisma are moving again. 3 more major cities gone in the last hour. Their conversion rate is accelerating exponentially." Sarah quickly downloaded everything she could from her scans. "There's something else in these records," she said as they hurried back through the tunnels. "The Prisma, they're not just invaders. They're more like gardeners." "Gardeners?" Marcus helped her over a fallen column. "What are they growing?" "Us, or rather, what they think we should become. Every world they target, they're trying to force an evolution, convert organic life into crystalline forms that can join their network." The implications hit Marcus hard. They're not destroying humanity. They're trying to upgrade us, without asking if we want to be upgraded. Sarah's voice was hard. "And their process kills anyone who can't adapt to the conversion, which so far seems to be everyone." They emerged from the cave into harsh sunlight. Even through the radiation shielding, they could see the distant crystalline spires that had sprung up in the desert. They were spreading faster now, racing to complete their transformation of Earth. "How long?" Marcus asked as they hurried toward their transport. Sarah checked the latest projections. At their current rate of expansion, 3 days, maybe 4, before the conversion becomes irreversible. "Then we better hope that ancient device gave us everything we need." Marcus paused before entering the vehicle. "Sarah, if the Prisma are trying to evolve us, trying to share their version of immortality, are we sure we should stop them?" Sarah thought of the visions, of countless civilizations facing this choice. "They're not sharing, Marcus. They're imposing. And the price of their evolution is everything that makes us human." She clutched her tablet, with its precious data from the ancient device. Sometimes survival means rejecting the upgrade. As they sped back toward the resistance base, Sarah's mind raced through calculations and possibilities. The ancient device had shown them it was possible to fight back, but implementing its lessons in time would push human technology to its absolute limits. And somewhere in the quantum network that now spanned the globe, she sensed the Prisma were aware of what they'd discovered. The race to decide humanity's future had entered its final phase, and there would be no middle ground between evolution and extinction. Above them, the crystalline spires reached ever higher, their quantum songs building toward a crescendo that would reshape Earth forever, one way or another. The quantum resonance device hummed on the testing platform, its crystalline components salvaged from dormant Prisma formations. Sarah watched through protective glass as the machine powered up, its geometric patterns mimicking those from the ancient device in the desert cave. Around her, the Resistance's remaining scientists held their breath. "Power levels stable," Marcus reported from his station. "Quantum field alignment at 97%. He glanced at Sarah. That's better than we've ever managed before. But Sarah barely heard him, her attention fixed on the device's readings. The ancient blueprints had transformed their understanding of quantum mechanics, showing them how to manipulate fields they hadn't even known existed. Now, watching those principles in action, she felt a mixture of awe and dread. "Begin test sequence," she ordered. A small prisma crystal fragment, contained in a magnetic field, floated above the resonance device. As the quantum fields engaged, the crystal's surface began to ripple, its internal circuits responding to the device's output. "Reading quantum disruption in the target," Marcus announced. "Pattern matches the theoretical models. It's working." But something felt wrong. Sarah studied the crystal's reaction, noticing subtle variations in its response. "Wait," she started to say, but it was too late. The crystal's quantum field suddenly inverted, sending a feedback pulse through the resonance device. Alarms blared as emergency shutdowns activated. When the chaos settled, the test crystal had changed. Its surface now displaying new patterns, more complex than before. "It adapted," Sarah said, frustration evident in her voice. "They're learning faster than we anticipated." "Dr. Chen." Colonel Harper's voice made her turn. He stood in the doorway with General Rivera, both looking grimmer than usual. "We need to talk." In the command center, holographic displays showed the current state of Earth. Crystal formations now covered nearly 30% of the planet's surface, their growth accelerating exponentially. Major cities had become alien landscapes, their skyscrapers replaced by crystalline spires that pulsed with otherworldly energy. "We've lost contact with the European resistance," Rivera reported. "Asia's holding out in pockets, but their largest stronghold fell this morning. We're running out of safe zones." Harper pointed to a new formation pattern emerging in the Pacific. "They're not just growing anymore. These structures are organizing, forming larger geometric patterns visible from orbit." "The final phase," Sarah said, recognizing the configurations from the ancient visions. "They're preparing to activate the planetary conversion network." "How long?" Harper asked. Sarah calculated quickly. 36 hours, maybe less. Once those patterns complete, she didn't need to finish. Everyone knew what was at stake. "Then we deploy the resonance device now," Rivera decided. "Ready or not." "It's not that simple," Marcus interjected. "You saw what happened in the test. They can adapt to direct quantum attacks. We need something they can't predict, can't defend against." Sarah stared at the global display, watching the crystal patterns spread. Then something caught her eye. A subtle rhythm in the formation's growth, a pattern she hadn't noticed before. "Maybe we're approaching this wrong," she said slowly. "We've been trying to disrupt their network from the outside. But what if we could use their own quantum frequency against them?" She quickly pulled up the data from the ancient device. "Look at these harmonic patterns. Every civilization that successfully fought them did it by creating a quantum resonance cascade, not just disrupting their network, but making it collapse from within." "Like a virus," Marcus said, understanding dawning. "We don't have to overpower them. We just have to introduce the right sequence into their network, let them spread it themselves." "Exactly." Sarah's fingers flew over the controls, modifying the resonance device's programming. The ancient device wasn't just showing us how to fight the Prisma. It was showing us how to speak their language. "Speaking their language nearly got us killed in that cave," Harper reminded her. "No," Sarah corrected. "It showed us the truth. The Prisma communicate through quantum states because that's what they are. Beings of pure quantum information. Their physical crystals are just hardware running their consciousness as software." Rivera leaned forward. "And you think you can, hack their consciousness?" "Not hack. Overwhelm. Every quantum system has natural resonant frequencies. If we can match those frequencies exactly and introduce a cascading feedback loop." She paused, the implications of what she was suggesting sinking in. "We could make their entire network collapse." The room fell silent as the weight of this strategy settled over them. They weren't just talking about destroying an invasion force anymore. If the Prisma were truly conscious beings, this would be closer to mass execution than conventional warfare. "Do it," Harper said finally. "Whatever the ethical implications, we're out of options and out of time." The next 12 hours were a blur of preparation. The resonance device had to be modified, its quantum circuits recalibrated to match the exact frequencies they'd discovered. Every remaining resistance cell around the globe was coordinated, preparing for simultaneous strikes at key points in the Prisma network. Sarah worked without rest, her mind racing through calculations and configurations. But as she worked, a question nagged at her. What if the Prisma were right? What if their forced evolution, horrible as it seemed, was necessary for humanity's survival in a universe far stranger than they'd imagined? She pushed the thought aside. The Prisma had made their choice, forcing this transformation without consent or consideration for those who couldn't survive the change. Now humanity would make its own choice. As the final preparations were made, Sarah stood with Marcus in the launch bay, watching teams load the modified resonance devices onto what remained of their aircraft. "Something's been bothering me," Marcus said quietly. "The ancient device, all those records of previous civilizations, why did the Prisma leave them? They must have known those ruins could be used against them." Sarah had wondered the same thing. Maybe they couldn't destroy them. Or maybe, she thought of the quantum visions, the overwhelming sense of purpose they conveyed. Maybe this is all part of their test. See which civilizations choose to fight back, which choose to submit to evolution, and what happens to those who fight back and win. Before Sarah could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the base. Above ground, the Prisma formations had begun to pulse with unprecedented energy. The final phase was beginning ahead of schedule. "Time's up," Harper's voice came over the comms. "We launch now, or we lose everything." Sarah looked at Marcus, seeing her own mix of fear and determination reflected in his eyes. Whatever the Prisma's true purpose, whatever the cosmic game they were playing, humanity had made its choice. The price of dawn would be paid in quantum fire, and the next few hours would determine whether Earth's future would be purely human or purely crystalline. There would be no middle ground. The sky above Los Angeles had turned into a crystalline kaleidoscope, Prisma formations casting prismatic light across the ruins of the city. Sarah watched from the cockpit of the modified stealth aircraft as they approached their target, the largest crystal spire on the west coast, its quantum signature pulsing with unprecedented power. "All teams report ready," Marcus's voice came through her headset. He was coordinating from the underground command center, managing the global operation. "Europe and Asia are in position. South America standing by. We launch on your mark." Sarah checked the resonance device secured behind her seat. They had one shot at this. The device had to be planted at the exact center of the spire's quantum field for the cascade to work. Too far in any direction, and the Prisma would adapt before the effect could spread through their network. "Remember," she broadcast to all teams, "synchronization is critical. The quantum cascade has to hit their network simultaneously, or they'll isolate and adapt. Time your approach exactly to my signal." The aircraft's stealth systems, enhanced with quantum dampening fields, kept them hidden from the Prisma's sensory network. But as they drew closer to the spire, Sarah could feel something, a pressure in her mind, like static electricity, but deeper, more fundamental. "They know," she realized. "Maybe not exactly what we're doing, but they sense something's coming." She keyed her comm. "All teams, prepare for resistance." They're aware. The spire's surface began to ripple, geometric patterns shifting and flowing like liquid mathematics. Then, without warning, crystal tendrils erupted from its surface, reaching toward the sky. But these weren't the aggressive attacks they'd seen before. The formations moved with deliberate purpose, weaving together into. "My God," Sarah breathed. "They're trying to communicate." The crystal lattice had formed into complex geometric symbols, pulsing with quantum information. Sarah's instruments recognized the patterns from the ancient device. It was the same language, the same quantum syntax they'd decoded. "Sarah," Marcus's voice was urgent. "We're detecting similar formations at all target sites. Whatever message they're trying to send, it's coordinated." She studied the patterns, her modified sensors translating the quantum language in real time. The message was simple, devastating in its implications. "Join US, or FAC the void." They're not just trying to evolve us, Sarah realized. They're trying to save us from something worse. The ancient visions flashed through her mind. Countless civilizations facing the same choice. How many had chosen extinction over evolution? How many had welcomed the crystal transformation? "All teams, hold position," she ordered, her mind racing. "There's something we're missing." The crystal patterns shifted again. "The darkness comes. Humanity is survival." "Sarah," Harper's voice cut in, "we're detecting massive energy buildups in the Prisma network. If we're going to act, it has to be now." She stared at the quantum messages, understanding finally clicking into place. The ancient device, the ruins, they weren't just warnings about the Prisma. They were warnings about what the Prisma are running from. She took a deep breath. But they're wrong about the solution. Sarah activated the resonance device, its quantum circuits humming to life. "All teams, proceed with the operation, but modify your devices to match these frequencies." She transmitted a new set of parameters. "We're not going to destroy their network. We're going to show them another way." The aircraft swooped toward the spire's core, crystal tendrils parting around them like a conscious sea. Sarah could feel the quantum pressure building, the Prisma's collective consciousness reaching out, trying to understand. "Now," she commanded. Across the globe, resonance devices activated simultaneously. But instead of creating destructive interference, they generated a harmony, a quantum chorus that matched the Prisma's frequency while maintaining its human origin. The effect was immediate and stunning. The crystal formations blazed with new light, their patterns transforming as the quantum cascade spread through their network. But instead of collapse, there was integration. The crystalline structures remained, but their aggressive growth halted. The radiation emissions changed frequency, becoming harmless. "What did you do?" Marcus demanded, watching the readings in awe. "Showed them another option," Sarah replied, her voice tight with concentration, as she guided the resonance. "They wanted unity. Fine. But on our terms, not theirs. The quantum resonance pattern, it's creating a bridge, a way for our consciousness to interface with their network without losing our humanity." The transformation spread across the planet like dawn breaking. Where before the crystals had been alien and hostile, now they hummed with a different energy, one that felt both foreign and familiar. The Prisma's quantum network was reshaping itself, creating spaces where human consciousness could connect without being consumed. In orbit, the massive geometric patterns the Prisma had been building changed configuration. Sarah's instruments showed them forming what could only be described as a quantum shield around the planet, protection against whatever darkness had driven the Prisma to their desperate mission of forced evolution. "They're accepting it," Marcus said in disbelief. "The hybrid solution. They're actually adapting their entire network to accommodate us." Sarah watched the crystal spires pulse with new life, their quantum songs now a duet between human and Prisma consciousness. "Because we proved we could face extinction and still choose our own path." Maybe that's what they've been looking for, not just species to assimilate, but civilizations strong enough to help them evolve. The price of dawn had been paid not in destruction, but in transformation. Humanity had kept its essential nature while gaining access to a universe of quantum consciousness they'd never imagined. The Prisma gained something too, a new way of thinking, a new path of evolution they hadn't considered in their eons of existence. As the sun rose over Los Angeles, its light caught in the crystal formations and scattered in new patterns, not alien anymore, but not quite human either. Something new, something that spoke of both survival and transcendence. Sarah sat back in her cockpit, watching the quantum readings stabilize. "Marcus," she said quietly, Get me a channel to their network. I think it's time we really talked. Above her, the crystal spire pulsed with anticipation, ready for the first true conversation between humanity and the Prisma. The darkness they feared might still be coming, but Earth would face it as neither purely organic nor purely crystalline, but as something unprecedented, a hybrid civilization that had found strength in choosing its own evolution. The true price of dawn, it turned out, wasn't victory or defeat, but the wisdom to forge a third path. And in the quantum songs now echoing through the transformed planet, both human and Prisma consciousness joined in a harmony that would reshape the future of both species. Dawn had broken, and with it came not an ending, but a beginning.